Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and tonight our focus is on the historic India-Bangladesh land boundary agreement, which was operationalized. The enclaves have been exchanged, and that historic moment we'll be discussing with special guest Amit Barua a little later in the show. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. Implementation of the historic India-Bangladesh land boundary agreement underway. India and Bangladesh exchanged nearly 160 enclaves in each other's territory. War of words between the BJP and the Congress over Home Minister's Hindu terror remark that lashed out at the Congress. Congress hits back saying that Sushil Kumar Shinde was quoted out of context. Floods in the aftermath of Cyclone Komen wreak havoc in eastern India. Lakhs displaced with continuous rain threatening worse to come. And tennis star Sania Mirza nominated for the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna. Sports Ministry forwards Sania's name to the awards committee despite IITA missing the deadline. For the top story this evening, history was made at midnight when over 50,000 people living in enclaves on the Indo-Bangladesh border gained an identity as either an Indian or a Bangladeshi. This after the two countries swapped some 160 small pockets of land in each other's territory. National flags were hoisted as residents chose where they wanted to live and which nationality they would prefer.
68 years after India gained independence from the British rule, freedom came for the people living in enclaves along the Indo-Bangladesh border. At midnight on Friday, India and Bangladesh swapped adversely held enclaves, thus implementing the historic land boundary agreement between the two countries.
অনেক লড়াই করেছি, অনেক আন্দোলন করেছি, অনেক অনশন হয়েছে, কিন্তু তারপরে আমাদের স্বাধীনতা কোনো দুঃখ ভুলে আনন্দ দুঃখ সব ভুলে গেছি এই মশাল জ্বালিয়ে।
हम लोगों का सब मिल जाएगा, आइडेंटिटी कार्ड, आधार कार्ड सब मिल जाएगा, इसलिए बहुत खुश लग रहा है हमको। इतने साल बाद हमको नेशनलिटी मिला।
In all 162 enclaves located in one country but officially belonging to the other were swapped. The solution came over 4 decades after the two countries first tried to untangle the complex territorial rights set down in 1713. People of 111 Indian enclaves in Bangladesh and 51 Bangladeshi enclaves in India hoisted the national flags to celebrate their independence. Around 14,200 residents of the Bangladeshi enclaves have now become Indian citizens, while over 37,300 people in Indian enclaves are now citizens of Bangladesh.
July 31st, 2015 has turned out to be a very historic day for both India and Bangladesh. Ground has now been prepared for the physical movement of those people in Indian enclaves who have now asked and exercised the option of moving to the Indian mainland. And that exercise will be completed before the stipulated date of the 30th of November 2015.
The process ahead is simple enough. The next step for these new Indians is a notification to be issued by the centre. A proposal to include their names in Gram Panchayats has already gone out. The land accord was originally agreed in 1974 by then Prime Minister of India Indira Gandhi and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman of Bangladesh. But progress on the agreement stopped for a long time after Mujibur was assassinated in 1975 and subsequent governments failed to agree on the transfer of enclaves. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by Amit Barua, resident editor at The Hindu, to help us understand as far as this issue is concerned. Amit, it is indeed a historic milestone, especially in India-Bangladesh ties as well. We're seeing a renewed focus and renewed energy in the ties between the two countries, and this once again a reflection of that.
Well, absolutely. I think that this is excellent what has happened. I think it has come very late. It should have happened years ago. But obviously, the difficult nature of relations between India and Bangladesh held this up. And it's interesting, finally, that the protocol was signed by the UPA government and the decision is being implemented by an NDA government. Right. I think that shows, at least when it comes to foreign affairs, there is a sense of bipartisanship and understanding that India's national interests, when it comes to especially dealing with our neighbors, must come first. And finally, at the end of the day, this welcome decision will go a long way, I think, in helping India-Bangladesh relations forward.
All right, let's talk about the human factor in all this, because after all, there's so many people who've been virtually identity-less for almost 50 years now, and they finally get that. And I mean, you've reported across the country, so tell us about the human aspect of this historic exchange.
Well, absolutely. It's really dramatic for the people, who've been hoping for a long time that they could go to the country of their choice. And I think that finally, after all these tortuous negotiations, these years of wait, and the fact that, relations between India and Bangladesh, which have really a potential of booming and moving forward, they've been dogged by very basic, issues between India and Bangladesh. But finally, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I think people must be celebrating, and and why not? Because at the end of the day, the identity with your country, with your flag, with your passport is something which is very basic to human beings. And when you're denied of that, obviously there are some issues which will crop up. And really, people do want an end to this. They want a resolution. They want a settlement. And that's precisely what has happened. Finally, it's long delayed, but doesn't matter. It's welcome. And I do believe this is going to be a building block, really, for taking this relationship forward. Good visits have happened. A lot more is expected from India-Bangladesh.
Yes, there are a few contentious issues like Tista that are there outstanding between the two countries. And given this renewed energy in ties, Prime Minister Modi also went there a short while ago. You were just mentioning the visits. So in that sense, India-Bangladesh becoming strategic partners. Also, the fact that Bangladesh offers a route to the northeast for India that could prove to be very beneficial in terms of connectivity. So as far as the economic ties between the two countries are concerned, do you think that takes precedence? And also, what about other little stickling issues such as extremist elements that have had an anti-India sentiment, have managed to cultivate that sentiment in Bangladesh?
Well, yes. I mean, there are extremists, and we know that, what kind of problem and threat they can force. But I think that the issue is that today we not only have Bangladesh, but we have Myanmar, which has opened up. And to look at this region as a large whole and the possibilities that have been spoken about, I mean, from Look East, we're talking about Act East. Now, what does Look East mean and what does Act East mean? For a long time, Southeast Asia was under the impression that India was not interested in it. India has gone out, made overtures, and that's been returned. We have huge trade between Southeast Asia and India now. But taking it to the next level, opening up this region, making travel easy, making the movement of goods and transport services easy, making people go and work in another country if necessary. I think it's really time to think big if we are serious about the issue of regional cooperation and we are serious about the welfare of people living in the Northeast or citizens of Bangladesh or Myanmar. I think there's a huge opportunity now given what has happened with Myanmar. But really, it's the political will that is needed to take these issues forward, to make sure that this understanding really develops and we have something extremely substantive available to the residents in this part of the world.
All right, Amit, we'll leave it over there. But thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand this great moment between India and Bangladesh and how that could impact the ties between the two countries in the coming days as well. Well, on to the big political news of the day. The Congress and the BJP are at loggerheads once again, this time over the issue of linking terror to a particular religion. On Friday, Home Minister Rajnath Singh had accused the Congress of giving terrorism a religious twist. He said this was weakening the fight against terror. The Congress in turn accuses the BJP of trying to divert attention from more pressing issues.
In a sharp reaction to Home Minister Rajnath Singh's accusations, the Congress has retorted that the BJP should refrain from advising it on the issue of terrorism. It also accuses the Home Minister of raising unnecessary issues during his statement on the Gurudaspur terror attack, all in a bid to divide the House.
इस terrorism के चलते हमने sitting Prime Minister श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी को terrorist के हाथों शहीद हुए देखा है। हमने एक्स प्राइम मिनिस्टर और बनने वाले दोबारा प्राइम मिनिस्टर राजीव गांधी को टेररिस्ट के हाथों उनकी मौत देखी है, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी को हमको लेक्चर देने की जरूरत नहीं।
Congress leader and the country's former Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde also clarifies that he never used the term Hindu terrorism inside Parliament. He, however, acknowledged using it during a function in Jaipur, but also said that he issued a clarification later.
UPA सरकारमध्ये असताना हिंदू टेरर हा शब्द वापरला म्हणून पार्लमेंटमध्ये मी कधी हिंदू टेरर हा शब्द वापरला नाही। एकदा पक्षाच्या ह्याच्यावर जयपूरला असताना त्या ठिकाणी हिंदू टेरर अशा प्रकारचा शब्द केलेला होता, पण लगेच मी ते करेक्ट केलं आणि टेररिझमला कुठलीही जात असत नाही अशा प्रकारचं मी भाष्य केलेलं होतं। ना हिंदू असत नाही, ना मुस्लिम असत नाही, ना आणखी कुठल्या जातीचं त्याला जातपात असत नाही अशा प्रकारची भूमिका घेतली नव्हती।
But the BJP is standing behind Rajnath Singh as one. The party accuses Congress leaders of using the term from time to time.
कार्यक्रम में सुशील कुमार शिंदे ने कहा था कि नहीं कहा था कि भारत को हिंदू टेरर से बहुत चिंता है? चिदंबरम साहब ने क्या कहा था जब वो गृह मंत्री थे? उन्होंने सैफरन टेरर की बात कही थी।
During his statement on the Gurdaspur incident inside Lok Sabha on Friday, Home Minister Rajnath Singh had accused the previous UPA government of giving terrorism a religious angle.
पूर्व गृह मंत्री ने हिंदू आतंकवाद जैसे एक नई टर्मिनोलॉजी का इजाद किया था ताकि जो जांच की दिशा है उस जांच की दिशा को बदल दिया जाए।
The remark had prompted many opposition parties to demand that it be expunged. Shamsundar's report for Rajya Sabha television.
Concerned over the Islamic State terror threat to India, the Home Ministry today convened a meeting of the senior-most police officials and bureaucrats of at least 10 states. The thrust was on how to frame an effective strategy to counter extremist ideologies such as those propagated by the Islamic State, and also to prevent Indian youth from getting radicalized by such forces. The meeting was chaired by Union Home Secretary L.C. Goel. Meanwhile, efforts are on to secure the release of the 2 Indian teachers reportedly held hostage by the Islamic State in Libya. 2 of the 4 Indians abducted in Tripoli were released yesterday. They've been brought safely to the Indian embassy in Tripoli and will be brought back to India soon.
Yesterday, through our efforts, we were able to secure the release of 2 of those Indians. In fact, they have now come back from Sirte to the Indian embassy in Tripoli. They are currently residing in the Indian embassy in Tripoli. And our efforts are continuing to secure the release of the remaining 2, after which all 4 can then come to India.
At least 20 people have died in Manipur as extremely heavy rainfall lashed the state mercilessly. Meanwhile, in West Bengal and Odisha, Cyclone Komen is wreaking havoc. More than a dozen districts in both states have been affected, with lakhs of people displaced.
Extremely heavy rainfall has claimed at least 20 lives in Manipur. Incessant rains in the past few days have wreaked havoc in the state, washing away bridges and roads and rendering thousands homeless. The overflowing rivers have inundated low-lying areas of capital Imphal as well.
Currently, this island village and Thaimongkung have been submerged. In some areas, some villages, not villages, some houses, that's under Masi subdivision, 2-3 houses have been affected.
Meanwhile, in coastal states of West Bengal and Odisha, the flood situation worsened on Saturday. Floods triggered by Cyclone Komen have submerged more than a dozen districts in both states, displacing as many as 7 lakh people. Adding to the people's misery is the continuous downpour. Non-stop rains over the past 2 days have resulted in overflowing of major rivers, further aggravating the flood situation. At least 39 people have lost their lives in West Bengal alone. Incessant rains have caused waterlogging in cities as well, severely affecting road and rail traffic, which remains suspended.
Streets are waterlogged. We are facing lots of problems. We have to commute through this, the dirty waters, and the buses are not plying.
Similar conditions prevail in Odisha as well. Bhadrak remains the worst affected district, with several villages reported to be marooned.
कोमेन का प्रभाव से 1 तारीख के बाद 2 तारीख तो जो बारिश होगा 3 तारीख से थोड़ा उसका प्रभाव कम रहेगा, लेकिन बारिश कंटिन्यू रहेगा, ड्राई नहीं होगा.
Meanwhile, in Gujarat, the death toll due to heavy rainfall has reached 40. Though it stopped raining on Saturday, many areas remain inundated. NDRF teams are carrying out rescue and relief work in the affected region. And while coastal states in the east as well as the west continue to grapple with floods, a study by the International Water Management Institute shows that Bihar is the country's most flood-prone state. The report says, with nearly 73% of area getting flooded annually and more than 76% of the people in North Bihar at risk of getting caught in floods, Bihar is the most flood-prone state. The institute, however, has said it can ensure an objective post-flood compensatory mechanism in Bihar to enable robustness against uncertainties and minimize the burden on the state government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for us to take a very quick break. Coming up on the other side, Australia vows to fight for the prosecution of those responsible for downing MH17. Details after this short break. Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, China might be at a crossroads with India on a range of issues, but there is good news from the Indo-China border. For the first time ever, the People's Liberation Army hosted an Indian Army delegation at the Dolak Beg Oldie area along the line of actual control in Ladakh sector on Saturday. The Indian delegation was led by Colonel B.S. Uppal. It began with a salute to the Chinese flag. Ceremonial addresses by both leaders followed thereafter. It's a major milestone in Indo-Chinese ties as the proceedings reflected a mutual desire to maintain and improve relations at the border. Now, ahead of the assembly polls in Bihar, a major administrative reshuffle has taken place in the state. The state government has transferred 36 IAS officers and 41 IPS officers across 28 districts. The transfers come ahead of the possible visit of an election commission team led by Chief Election Commissioner Naseem Zaidi. The visit on August 7th and 8th is to assess the ground situation and discuss the poll preparedness with state officials. Assembly elections are slated to be held in October and November in Bihar, but the final dates are yet to be finalized. The Supreme Court Deputy Registrar has resigned, attacking the judgment clearing the death penalty for 1993 Mumbai blast convict Yaqub Memon. Professor Arnoop Swarendranath, Deputy Registrar Research, said 2 decisions within a span of hours are instances of judicial abdication that should count among the darkest hours of the apex court. Professor Surendranath was appointed more than a year ago on contract. He resigned on the 30th of July, the day Memon was hanged to death, 2 hours after the court had upheld the death warrant. His resignation, which has come in the midst of a raging debate over death penalty and whether it should be used as a form of the state avenging a crime, has been accepted and he's been relieved of his duties. For all the other national news and updates, let's take you nationwide. Pakistani Rangers today violated the ceasefire by resorting to small arms firing and mortar shelling on border outposts along the international border in Jammu district. The firing drew retaliation from the BSF. 3 border outposts of the BSF were targeted during this exchange. Rashtriya Janata Dal Chief Lalu Prasad has been urged to stop his plan of using more than 1,000 horse-drawn carriages during the party's campaign for the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. The People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, on Friday wrote to Lalu asking him to desist from carrying out his plan as it was against the Election Commission advisory. A day after making the controversial demand that Yaqub Memon's wife be made a member of parliament, Vice President of the Samajwadi Party's Maharashtra unit, Mohammad Farooq Ghosi, was sacked from his position today. In his letter to party chief Mulayam Singh on Friday, Ghosi described Raheen as a helpless person who should be made the voice of the weak and the helpless. The Army's Eastern Command in Kolkata got a new chief in Lieutenant General Praveen Bakshi. Lieutenant General Bakshi took over from Lieutenant General MMS Rai, who's been now promoted as the Vice Chief of Army Staff in New Delhi. The Eastern Command has its territorial jurisdiction on West Bengal and overall the northeastern states. Some international news now, and the plane carrying debris believed to be from the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 has arrived in Paris. The debris was found on the Reunion Island early on Wednesday. From Paris, it will be transported to a Defense Ministry laboratory in Toulouse for further analysis. Flight MH370 had vanished in March 2014 while it was flying to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur.
A ray of hope that the mystery around the disappearance of MH370 might unravel soon. It's been over a year since the Malaysian airliner vanished into thin air en route to Beijing with 239 people on board. Debris believed to be from a Boeing 777 and possibly from MH370 has arrived in French capital Paris. It will be transported to a Defense Ministry laboratory in Toulouse for further analysis. An object believed to be from the wing part of the plane was found in the Indonesian island of La Reunion early on Wednesday. A day later, some more debris washed ashore. It appears to resemble remnants of a suitcase.
Less speculation on this. We wait for the result of the verification. Whether it belongs to 777 or it belongs to MH370, I think that yet to be verified. So we have sent two teams, one team to France, another team to the Reunion Island to look for more debris and more wreckage at the island.
Experts hope that the long wing surface known as the flaperon and the fragment of luggage could yield forensic clues to the fate of MH370. The laboratory in Toulouse will verify the serial number of the wing flap first before conducting further tests to try to establish how it came to be separated from the rest of the plane.
Obviously, there's strong evidence to suggest that the wreckage found on Reunion Island does come from a Boeing 777. That has not yet been confirmed, but the pictures that are available for people to examine are certainly consistent with the parts from the wing of a Boeing 777.
The Reunion Island is roughly 3,700 kilometers from the broad expanse of the southern Indian Ocean of Australia, where search efforts were focused. If the debris is actually from the vanished plane, then it will bring closure for relatives of the missing passengers, who are still uncertain about the fate of their loved ones. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, Australia has vowed not to let up its quest to prosecute those responsible for shooting down the Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, killing all 298 passengers on board. Australia says Russia's veto of a UN resolution on Wednesday raised further questions about its involvement. 11 of the 15 members of the Security Council voted in favour of the resolution that was drafted by Australia, Belgium, Malaysia, the Netherlands and the Ukraine. Countries including Australia, Britain, France and the US accuse pro-Russian separatist rebels of shooting the plane down with a surface-to-air missile supplied by Russia. However, Moscow denies involvement in the incident and in fact blames the Ukrainian military for it. Let's take a look at some more international news in Global Buzz. Several of Osama bin Laden's family members are feared among those killed in a plane crash when a business jet crashed in Hampshire in the United Kingdom. According to reports in the Arab media, the dead included bin Laden's stepmother, Rajya Hashim, and sister Sana. Osama's brother-in-law, Zuhair Hashim, is also believed to be amongst the dead. Layat al-Khaldi, an 18-year-old protester shot by Israeli troops, has died of his wounds. Palestinian health officials said the teenager died after being shot in the chest on Friday during a demonstration over the killing of a Palestinian toddler by suspected Jewish extremists. However, the Israeli military denied the allegation and said it shot al-Khaldi near Ramallah after he hurled a firebomb at them. Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has reportedly ordered the nation's Inspector General of Police to immediately arrest the suspects who opened fire at a United National Party rally in Colombo on Friday. One woman was killed and 13 others were injured in a drive-by shooting in the rally. Further investigations are being carried out by the Criminal Investigation Department. One crew member still missing after a passenger ferry caught fire off the coast of northern Japanese island of Hokkaido on Friday. The missing crew member has been identified as Kunihiko Urita, a 44-year-old second officer who is believed to have stayed behind to deal with the fire. The other 93 passengers and crew got to safety in life rafts, which were picked up by nearby ferries and Coast Guard vessels. Japanese media reported that the fire started on a truck on a lower cargo deck of the ferry. Around 100 students camped overnight in the Ministry of Education compound in Taipei to protest textbooks they say are aimed at promoting Beijing's One China policy. On Friday, nearly 700 students climbed barricades around the Home Ministry demanding an audience with the Education Minister. The students said the revisions to high school textbook present a warped version of history slanted towards China and are aimed at brainwashing them to accept the One China policy. Some sports now, and Wimbledon's doubles champion Saina Mirza has been recommended for the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. This was confirmed by the Home Ministry, which also said that the final decision though rests with the award committee. Now, Sania won her career's first ever women's doubles Grand Slam title with Swiss partner Martina Hingis this June. She also attained the top ranking in doubles before winning the grass court major. Sports Minister Sarbananda Sonowal has recommended the tennis ace for the country's highest sporting honour. Sania, who has won 3 mixed doubles Grand Slam in her career, is reportedly competing with squash player Deepika Palekar and discus thrower Vikas Gara for the prestigious award. Well, time now for all the sporting action and sports beat. Ranveer Singh Saini has become the first Indian golfer to win a gold medal at the Special Olympics World Games in Los Angeles. The 14-year-old autistic golfer achieved the feat in GF Golf Level 2 alternate shot team play event on Friday. Ranveer and his partner Monica Jaju were 9 shots clear of joint second-place teams from Hong Kong and Japan. 21 nations participated in the event. 2 years ago, Ranveer became the first Indian golfer to win 2 gold medals at the Asia-Pacific World Games. India's Joshna Chinnappa has stormed into the final of the Victoria Open Squash Tournament in Melbourne. In the women's singles semi-final, third-seed Chinnappa defeated Aussie Christine Nunn 11-7, 11-5, 11-9 to book a place in the final. For the trophy, she will face second place Lene Hansen of Denmark on Sunday. Indian off-spinner Ravichandran Ashwin was awarded the Arjuna Award on Friday by Sports Minister Sonowal. Though the honour was all conferred on him last year, the 28-year-old had been unable to attend the ceremony as he was part of the Indian cricket team touring England. Ashwin has represented India in 24 tests and 97 one-dayers and was also part of the World Cup winning squad of 2011. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.